We come before the altar of reception to ask a singular question. We bring the headlines of this day to the text, seeking the voice of YHWH in the chaos of the world. The lead verse for our inquiry is 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 6. It speaks of a people who did not depart from the sins of their forefathers. They walked in covenant violation. They remained in the groves of idol worship. This is the foundation upon which we build our testimony today. First, the day itself. The sealed digest records events across the globe. In Nepal, a flash flood and mudslide on the border with Tibet killed at least 9 people. Hundreds of travelers are missing in Rasuwa and Gyirong. In Pakistan, a fire broke out in the maternity nursery at the Medical Institute in Islamabad. 14 newborn babies died after an air conditioning unit ignited. In Iran and Oman, leaders discussed a temporary joint navigational corridor through the Strait of Hormuz. In Canada, retaliatory tariffs were announced on $20 billion worth of American goods. In Syria, the Kurdish-led force announced its dissolution after merging with the Syrian army. In Haiti, a gang raid near Port-au-Prince killed at least 47 people. More than 50 others were kidnapped. These are the facts we bring to the text. We must be clear what this analysis does and does not do. The verdict is affirmative. It is a strong anomaly. The probability of this pattern occurring by chance is less than 1 in 1,000. This scores the drawn text against the corpus. It verifies the internal consistency of the scripture we have selected. It does not verify any specific news event. It is a measure of textual weight, not a prediction of world events. The text speaks to the nature of the day, not the mechanics of it. The lead verse, 2 Kings 13, verse 6, establishes the context. It describes a people who remained in their sins. They did not depart from the ways of Jeroboam. They kept the groves for idol worship. This is a state of spiritual stagnation. It is a refusal to turn back to YHWH. The text does not describe a sudden fall. It describes a slow, persistent walking away. The news reflects this. The raids in Haiti are not isolated incidents. They are the fruit of a world that has not departed from its sins. The text covers the conflict markers heavily. It is not the weapon that kills. It is the sin that remains. We look to 1 Samuel chapter 24, verse 19 for a sharper insight. It asks a direct question. If a man finds his enemy, will he let him go away in peace? This is a test of true character. In the headlines, we see enemies who do not let their foes go in peace. The text suggests that true peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of a heart that chooses mercy. The day shows us many who choose violence. The text challenges us to ask if we are letting our enemies go in peace, or if we are holding on to them in judgment. The role of the priesthood is central. Numbers chapter 18, verse 23 states that the Levites will serve in the tabernacle. They will bear their depravity. It is a statute for the ages. The priest does not stand apart from sin. He bears it. He carries the weight of the people's failure. In the news, we see leaders who have failed to protect their people. The deaths in Pakistan and Nepal are a burden on the conscience of the nations. The text reminds us that there is a designated place for bearing this weight. It must be carried by the consecrated. We also hear the voice of David in 1 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 2. After making an end of his priestly offerings, he blessed the people in the covenant name of YHWH. This is the proper response to a day of tragedy. It is not despair. It is blessing. It is the act of declaring the name of YHWH over the chaos. The text shows us that even in the midst of fire and flood, the name of YHWH is the source of life. The blessings of David are a counter-narrative to the deaths we read in the digest. The promise of inheritance is also present. Zechariah chapter 2, verse 12 says that YHWH will inherit Judah his portion in the Holy Land. He will choose Jerusalem again. This is a statement of divine claim. The nations may fight over territory, but YHWH has already claimed his portion. The text speaks to land and territory with moderate strength. It reminds us that the ultimate owner of the earth is not a government or a gang. It is YHWH. The news of the day is temporary. The covenant is eternal. Finally, we look to Enoch chapter 48, verse 3. It speaks of the thirsty drinking and being filled with wisdom. Their dwellings were with the covenant faithful. This is the hope for the lost. The people missing in Nepal and the kidnapped in Haiti are thirsty for safety. They are seeking a dwelling place. The text promises that the covenant faithful provide that place. It is not a political solution. It is a spiritual reality. The wisdom of YHWH is the only thing that can fill the thirst of a broken world. The drawn text covers the themes of leadership and migration with strong correspondence. It does not, however, speak to the economic tariffs in Canada or the legal settlements in the United States. The scripture addresses the heart of the matter, the covenant relationship, but it does not provide a manual for international economics. We must not force the text to speak where it has chosen to be silent. The verdict is affirmative because the text holds together under pressure. The verses we have examined form a coherent witness. They point to a world in sin, a priesthood that bears the weight, and a God who claims his portion. The news of the day is the backdrop against which this witness shines. It is not the answer. The answer is YHWH. So, what is the answer to our question? We asked YHWH to synthesize the news with prophecy. The text tells us that the world is walking in covenant violation. It is bearing the fruit of its own sin. But it also tells us that YHWH is faithful. He has chosen his portion. He has appointed a place for the bearing of depravity. And he offers wisdom to the thirsty. The headlines are the symptom. The text is the diagnosis. And the name of YHWH is the cure. We do not need to predict the next flood or the next fire. We need to stand in the altar of reception. We need to bear our own depravity. And we need to bless the people in the covenant name of YHWH. That is the testimony of the day. It is a strong anomaly in a weak world. It is the voice of YHWH, speaking through the silence of the text, to the noise of the news. We hear it. We accept it. We rest in it. The question is answered. The covenant stands. The name is blessed. We close this session with that plain truth. The world is broken. The text is whole. YHWH is faithful. We leave the altar with this knowledge. We carry it into our day. We do not carry the weight of the news. We carry the weight of the covenant. And that is enough. That is more than enough. It is everything. May the name of YHWH be a shield over you. May the wisdom of the covenant faithful fill your thirst. May you walk in peace, even when the world walks in war. This is the testimony. This is the day. This is YHWH. The lead verses drawn in this altar of reception session were 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 6. 1 Samuel chapter 24 verse 19. 1 Chronicles chapter 16 verse 2. Enoch chapter 48 verse 3. Numbers chapter 18 verse 23. Zechariah chapter 2 verse 12. 94 further verses were drawn in this session. This concludes today's interpretation at the altar of reception.